Alright, this video discusses the verbs estar, ir, tener, and venir. These 4 verbs are all found in Unit 3. They're in the vocabulary, but they are not conjugated the standard way like all of the other AR, ER, and IR verbs are. So we're going to break these down one by one, go through the conjugations, and talk about why the conjugations are different, and then a couple of uses for the verbs ir and tener at the end. Okay, so the verb estar is considered an irregular verb, and looking at it, it doesn't look all that bad. It doesn't look too irregular, and the conjugations are not too difficult to remember. The yo form is irregular, so we've got not just an O at the end, but OY. So estoy is the yo form. Yo estoy en la clase. I am in the class. Tú estás, and notice the accent over the A. So that's what's different about this. Tú estás, él está, or ella está. Nosotros estamos, so that form is the same as any other AR verb would be. Vosotros estáis, same thing. And ellos or ellas or ustedes están. Okay, so if you notice, the second person singular and plural, and the third person singular and plural, all of those forms have an accent over the A. So that's one thing that's different or irregular about this verb. And then the other thing is what we call an irregular yo form. So if you can remember all of that, you'll be good with this verb. Estoy, estás, está. Estamos, estáis, están. Okay, the verb ir, even though looking at it, it is spelled IR, is not a typical IR verb. So it's pronounced ir, it is a word, and it means to go. So this 2-letter verb, ir, when we take away the IR ending, we're left with nothing. So this verb altogether is irregular, and the conjugations are nothing like what you would think they would be just looking at the verb in the infinitive form. So you're going to have to remember them. Yo form, voy, tú, vas, él, ella, or usted, va. Nosotros vamos, vosotros vais, ellos van. Okay, so one thing that you notice right off the bat is that all of the endings have the vowel A in them, which is unusual. But again, this is an irregular verb, and it does not behave according to the standard rules. That's what makes it irregular. So yo voy, so we have OY at the end, just like with the verb estar, estoy, so yo voy. Tú vas, él va, nosotros vamos. Notice that the vosotros form does not have an accent over the A. So that's another thing that's unusual about this verb. And then ellos van. That's how we conjugate the verb ir. So, I'm going to school, voy a la escuela. Let's go to the library, vamos a la biblioteca. They are going to the movies, ellos van al cine. Alright, the verb tener is considered regular. So even though there's a lot going on here, and I've highlighted what you need to be aware of in orange or in green, it's still considered a regular verb. It has some irregular tendencies, like the yo form is irregular because it's not just a standard O, but we have the yo tengo with a G. So that's one thing you need to remember. And then another thing that's different but still not irregular is that it's a stem changing verb. That means that the E that you see here in the infinitive form in the stem, in some of the conjugations it changes to an IE, and then you add your ending. Alright, so let's look at it. Yo tengo, tú tienes, él tiene, nosotros tenemos, so notice that the nosotros in vosotros form does not have the stem change. Nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis. and then ellos or ustedes tienen. So it is not an irregular verb. It's a regular verb that has an irregular yo form. And then one thing that you need to remember about it is that it's a stem changing verb. But stem changing verb does not necessarily mean that it's irregular. It just means it's regular and it has a stem change in it. Notice, if maybe you can remember, that the E changes to an IE in these forms that fall in this L-shape pattern here. You'll see with a lot of stuff that we do that the nosotros and vosotros forms always tend to fall outside of whatever pattern it is that we're looking at. Alright, the verb venir, which means to come, is conjugated very much like the verb tener, which is why we have it in this unit so that you can look at the similarities. It is also a regular verb. It has an irregular yo form just like the verb tener, and it's stem changing, so the E changes to IE. Yo vengo, tú vienes, él viene, nosotros venimos, vosotros venís, ellos vienen. Okay, so the endings in the nosotros and vosotros forms are not the same as the verb tener because this is an IR verb. So we're going to have the IR endings for our nosotros and vosotros forms. Okay, one of the uses of the verb ir is to talk about what the subject of a sentence is going to do. So with this verb, we can actually create a sort of future tense in talking about what's going to happen. What you need to make this structure are 3 words. You need a conjugation of the verb ir, which are highlighted in orange, and then you need the preposition a, and then the next verb, the thing that is going to happen, that verb stays in its infinitive form. So we'll look at all of these sentences. Voy a comer. That means I am going. So voy, I go, I am going. To eat. I am going to eat. Voy a comer. Vas a beber agua. You are going, or you go. You are going to drink water. Vas a beber agua. Él, so now we have the subject él, so we know that our conjugation needs to be va. Él va a subir la escalera. He is going to ascend, to go up the stairs. Vamos a leer el libro. We are going to read the book. Ustedes van a escribir. Y'all are going to write una composición, a composition. Okay, so this structure is called ir a plus an infinitive. And we'll talk about that a good bit in class this unit. And tener que plus infinitive. This is very similar because we've got 3 words that are the components. But, and it's just another way of showing, in addition to what's going on, this is used to talk about what the subject has to do. So with ir a plus an infinitive, we talk about what the subject is going to do. But here we can talk about what the subject has to do. So knowing that the verb tener means to have, we can make this structure work. Yo tengo, I have to talk with the professor. So tengo que hablar con la profesora. I have to talk with the teacher. This que here doesn't really translate to anything in English, but it is necessary to have when you want to make this whole structure. So there are always 3 things that you need. You need the conjugation of the verb tener, you need the word que, that connector word, and then you need that third word, the verb that needs to be done or the action that needs to happen. That one stays in the infinitive form. So tengo que hablar. I have to talk with the teacher. Tú tienes que subir la escalera. You have to go up the stairs. Usted tiene que decidir. You, again, this time it's formal, so you have to decide. Usted tiene que decidir. tenemos que trabajar mañana. We have to work tomorrow. Tenemos que trabajar mañana. Mario y Luisa tienen que correr una milla. So Mario and Luisa, they have to run a mile. Milla means mile. So Mario y Luisa tienen que correr una milla. Alright, so that wraps up the lesson for today. And we will talk about this much more in class this unit.